Right, good evening and welcome to your most authoritative evening political show, Hot News. We are live on Facebook at Pan-African Television, live on YouTube at Pan-African Television, as well as 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments, and contributions on a WhatsApp stroke text line. I'll be reading those messages out for you. Those of you watching us on Facebook can share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. My name is Justice Apia, and tonight on Hot News we are looking at a litany of issues. We are looking at the free senior high school policy, one of the flagship policies of a new patriotic party government. You know that the free senior high school policy has been hit with several challenges. For that reason, former President John Dramani Mahama, on one of his tours of the country, indicated that if voted for in 2024, he will review the policy. But that, has been responded to by the current Education Minister, Educhum, who says free SHS does not need review but improvement. And I'll read a bit of what the Education Minister has said. The Education Minister, Dr. Yaosei Educhum, firmly rejected calls for the review of the free senior high school policy during an interview on a sister station on Tuesday, January 9, 2024, while acknowledging that the policy has faced criticism. Dr. Edichum emphasized that it requires improvement in specific areas rather than a complete review. Former President John Dramani Mahama, on his national tour, reiterated his commitment to reviewing the policy if elected president in the 2024 elections. He proposed, convening stakeholders in the education sector within the first 100 days of his government to scrutinize both the free senior high school policy and the border education sector. Now addressing questions regarding the potential review of free senior high school policy, Education Minister Dr. Educhum stated that the policy in its current form does not necessitate a review, but rather targeted improvements. He highlighted the need to focus on training teachers to ensure they are well prepared for effective teaching, ultimately leading to better learning outcomes. So those were the words of the Education Minister, Dr. Yaosei Educhum. So we'll be looking at this, this topic. We'll be discussing it on the show tonight. Do you think that the free senior high school policy, needs an improvement or a review? Keep your messages coming in on our WhatsApp stroke text line displayed on the screen. I'll be reading those messages out for you. Another topic that we'll be looking at is, the upcoming, general elections in this year. I think it's 2024. And there have been a lot of electoral reforms. But Afarajan cautions EC against imposing electoral system changes on political parties. And what is he saying? The former chairman of the Electoral Commission, EC, Dr. Kwejo Afarajan, has cautioned the commission against imposing changes in the electoral system on political parties. He underscored the relevance of the country's 3 decades of uninterrupted democracy that have afforded a Republican dispensation. Speaking at the 4th Constitution Day lecture on Monday, January 8, Dr. Afarajan emphasized the need for key actors in the nation's electoral system to guard against circumstances that have the potential to stampede it. Dr. Afarajan cautioned the EC not to impose decisions concerning electoral reforms on political parties, but to strive to reach a consensus. Now let's listen Dr. Afarajan when he was addressing that lecture. We'll be right back.
Clear signs of deconsolidation of our democracy. Over the years, we have become poorer as a nation and as a people, due mainly to pervasive corruption, particularly in the public sector and public life. Unfortunately, some of our key institutions are becoming institutions of dubious integrity. Increasingly, candidates who lose elections are alleging manipulation and refusing to accept the results. By and large, we have not been able to diffuse the principles of democratic behavior widely into our society. And there is a general lack of predictability in social life, which is a disincentive to proper behavior. Some people will say that these are perceived and not real ailments of our democracy. But that doesn't change the picture at all.
So that was Dr. Afarijan, and he was addressing a lecture at the UPSA. You've listened to him. He has employed the Electoral Commission not to impose its decisions on, the political parties. You know that some of the political parties, including the National Democratic Congress, have, as a matter of fact, accused the EC of imposing its decisions at IPAC on them. Sometimes they indicated that the EC wouldn't want to listen to suggestions and opinions from these political parties. But, well, that is what a former EC chair, has been saying when he was addressing some persons at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. I've been joined in the studio by a deputy national organizer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Elikem Kotoko. Elikem, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing? It's been a while.
Thank you so much, Justice. It's really been a while. Happy New Year to you and to
many happy returns.
Cherished viewers as well.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Also, we are expecting the former national organizer of the Convention People's Party, CPP. As and when he joins us, he will be part of the discussion, but he's not here yet, actually. Elikem, let me start with you on the issue of the electoral reforms and what Dr. Afarijan, had to say about that. I think that, by and large, he has spoken for the political parties who are not too comfortable with how the Electoral Commission has been imposing its decision on them. Your take on this?
Thank you once again, Justice. May I wish Mr. Robert Coleman a happy birthday, and wish also Peladi Akabagre also a belated happy birthday. Then one of our comrades who is a lecturer at the University of Alabama, Comrade Kingsley Elikem Komla Mote.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I didn't listen much to Dr. Afarijan, but I listened to some excerpts of what he said. And to be very frank with you, he has always exemplified the fact that he has been in that position of electoral commissioner before. He didn't only speak the mind of the political parties, especially the NDC, but he spoke the mind of the concerned Ghanaian who felt that the Electoral Commission's posturing lately, for some time now, has not helped matters and has somehow not demonstrated that as a country, our democracy is growing. This is because, I mean, we have reiterated
that the Electoral Commission imposes its decisions on the political
I'm sure a lot of search. We have reiterated many of these on many occasions on this very platform of yours as well.
Right.
Where the Electoral Commission will just want to push what it feels it wants to do. And then you hear Bosman, for instance, say that, oh, It's an independent institution.
I was about to
We are autonomous. We agree.
Is an autonomous body. Nobody imposes his or her decisions on the Electoral Commission.
Nobody.
In fact, the Electoral Commission has been mandated to take decisions when it comes to electoral reforms.
So if the Electoral Commission tells you that because of my autonomy, I want to conduct elections from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. during the next election, do you think that would be sensible?
If the Constitution allows it,
the Constitution allows it, but will it be humanly possible? Will it be sensible? Will it be wise? That is why you need to know that even in your autonomy, you are working with humans. You are working with other stakeholders who you must always make sure you court, who you must make sure you involve. You get them to participate in the process. Because the Electoral Commission cannot conduct elections for itself. It is conducting elections for Ghanaians. So when the Ghanaians involved are saying, we have some concerns, and these concerns are being channeled through the political representations or the various representations at the various meetings. It is just proper that you heed those concerns being raised. But if you decide, and why do you think that the likes of even Afarijan will now be making such comments? It should tell you that there has been some things fundamentally wrong with our Electoral Commission for some time now. Because if you want to be imposing decisions because you have the power to do so, then a time will come, there will be organized chaos. Because the very people for which you are organizing the elections are not happy with certain things. They've raised concerns that you should address A, B, and C. And you say, no, I will only address A, I will not take B, or I will not even address any at all. That is what I'm telling you. We've had a lot of backs and forth, which you are also aware of as a media person. How the likes of Eric Bosman, Sribbo, etc., have been exchanging words and making it look as if it is a war path we are on and all of that. It does not help matters. And I have said consistently everywhere that even if the NDC...
You see, these issues that you are mentioning, it does appear as though some of these issues popped up at IPAC meetings. But you and I know that IPAC is to get the opinions, views of political parties. But the EC has within its mandate not to accept some of these opinions and views. So if the EC fails to accept your opinions, it doesn't mean that the EC is imposing its decision on the political parties.
I agree with you. It is also why I gave you the example, the analogy, that the hypothesis that should the EC decide to conduct elections from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Will it be wrong? No. They are mandated by Constitution to conduct elections. But will it be right? Will it be sane? Will it be prudent? No.
But I'm not sure the decisions of the Electoral Commission, have been so bad to an extent.
It has been. It has been.
What are some
to
of
the
those
extent
decisions?
that you see, I feel we have overflogged some of these things repeatedly. There's been instances where you go to IPAC, the same IPAC, where you think that your views are being heard, but you finish talking and it's as though, no, we have heard you, but we'll have our way. Then what is the purpose of the IPAC? It is supposed to solicit information or view from the various political parties. But when it is looking like the Electoral Commissioner and her other deputies put up a certain posturing to make you feel that, look, with you or without you, we'll go ahead. We do not care who you are. We do not care what you say. We do not care what you bring to the table. Then it means that my presence there is not needed. It means I'm totally being disrespected. And you see, you cannot rule out the significance of the NDC in Ghana's democracy. You can therefore not rule out the importance and the relevance of the NDC in an IPAC. And so if you think that because somehow, some way, somehow, I was appointed by, or my appointor is the current regime, the current president, and therefore, which is seemingly obvious now that the Electoral Commission has become a stooge and a puppet of the regime. Let's take, for instance, the recent news that was a release of presentation that they made saying that they are considering conducting the elections from morning to 3 p.m. Reasons that were adduced for that could be very justifiable. But others may also say, when you go to the villages, etc., our farmers always go to farm and they return around that time. So by which time they reach home, they may not get the opportunity to vote. Others may also say that if we do not close elections early, it goes into the night and it results into chaos. Okay, so instead of 5 o'clock, why don't we rather look at 4 o'clock rather than the 3 o'clock? That is what is called stakeholders engagement. But when you put it outright and you do not want to take opinions, then you are imposing your decisions on the people. And remember, that is why I said the Electoral Commission, even though it's autonomous, it does not operate in vacuum. It does not operate in isolation because it cannot conduct elections for itself. It conducts elections for the people. And so the people must have a say. Since all the people cannot come to the Electoral Commission's premise, it is doing that through the political parties who are representing the people.
Now, in discussing this issue, let's also look at the posture of the various political parties. It does appear, once again, as though if a political party feels that the commissioner at a particular regime is doing the bidding for a certain political party, then that party or the opposition party always, you know, would also, because it happened to Madame Charlotte Osei when she was appointed by former President John Dramani Mahama, and then the New Patriotic Party was in opposition.
It is not entirely
in fact,
true.
The posture of the political parties could not be taken out of this conversation. Once you have a certain, you know, fixated stand, it compromises your way of thinking and your way of doing things. So you always see the Electoral Commission as an enemy. That is what has happened over the years.
That is not entirely true. In the case of the NDC, I would wish that somebody cites an example of a scenario where the NDC raised a concern and it was not valid. Let me give you another classical example. As we sit here and speak, the Electoral Commission is saying that it is considering ensuring that in the next elections, we do not use indelible inks. What exactly is the justification for that when the purpose of the indelible ink is to make sure that we root out fraud? Is to make sure that we eliminate double voting or multiple voting.
There was an explanation. I mean, the Electoral Commissioner talked about the fact that if you look at the the machines we are using for elections currently.
Let me put on record here. Let me put on record here. Let me put on record here that Jane Mensah is a criminal. I am saying this, and I'm solely responsible for that. Do you recall the last time we were holding the elections, we were told that facial recognition was definitely going to be a part of the biometric registration process?
Yes.
Was it? This is the same way we will be told that the biometrics data, whatever, will work so well. Then on the D-Day, we will be told there's a fault with the machine and they'll have to go manual. Then there will not be any proper verification to identify who voted or not. The simple exercise of putting indelible ink on people's finger or nails, it's a sure way of even avoiding multiple or double voting. But I suspect, or many suspect, the Electoral Commission is not only up to some mischief, but up to some criminality that will involve vote rigging or electoral rigging, a rigging process. So that if at a point the sun is hot and as usual they say the systems is gone down, the network has gone down, let's do a biometric, a manual, let's allow for manual verification of manual voting. What it means is that the system will not be up and will not work.
Right.
Now the person who has just finished voting at Oforikrom can come down to Accra and may even be allowed to vote.
Right.
Because we cannot even see an indelible ink on the fellow. What exactly would allow someone to do this if not for criminality? And I will not treat this with any velvet gloves because there's an example, there's an evidence which we all can bring back or bring forward as to how the Electoral Commissioner, especially Jane Mensah, made us to believe that, look, the reasons why the biometric machines were so expensive and all that we spent, I've forgotten even the figures. Was it 850 million?
Of course,
or 85 million thereabout. And when we spent all that amount, she gave us reasons why, because there will be facial recognition, what have you, and all have you. Did that all happen during the process? So somebody is being criminal, and we must say it up front. Because it is the people, and you see, I am saying this from the perspective of the NDC, or from the NDC's point of view, and also for many Ghanaians. If the next elections on December 7th, 2024 is not free and fair, the people will resolve that matter on the streets, and they will resolve it squarely by meeting the electoral officers right over there. Because anybody who tries to want to engage in any act that is an affront to the electoral process will be confronted and dealt with right there at the polling station. Because the people are fed up, they have been lied to, they feel that this regime has failed them, the promises that were given them is not what has been lived up to, and therefore any attempt by anybody to collude or connive with any regime or anybody to engage in any exercise that would disenfranchise them, that would actually result in criminality, rigging, etc., will be confronted there outright. And this, the people will be right and justified to do so. And not a single police officer, not even the military, will be able to stop them, because there's no military that is bigger. There's no army that is bigger than the people. The people of Ghana have contained this kind of baloney for too long, and it can no longer be entertained in the next elections. And that is the message out there on the streets. In case the Electoral Commission is not aware, they need to revise their notes.
Right. Okay, I'll come back to you. That was Elikem Kotoko, a deputy national organizer of the opposition National Democratic Congress. I've been joined in the studio by a former national organizer of CPP in person of Moses Irimambo Ambem. Moses, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yourself?
I'm fine. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long while, my brother.
You know how we do it.
Yeah, look at you.
Yeah.
Hey, I believe that's...
I'm the only one at Pan-African Television who is able to fish you out.
I'm telling you. And I don't know how you do it.
Yes.
Times I don't expect you, I see you.
Yes. That's why you call me a wizard.
But the guy is a wizard. I don't know how he does it.
Yes.
In places where I suspect nobody will see me, you will see justice. How do you do it?
Well, I'll tell you my secret later. How's the CPP doing?
Well, CPP is doing well. You know, there've been some recent development which I know you've heard of.
I'm told you guys have been, booted out.
Yeah, we've been set aside.
You've been set.
Yes.
What was your crime?
No, well, it was not like we did anything to be very specific. In fact, it was a motion, surprisingly, which I mooted.
Okay.
So you could imagine.
Are you tired of being a national organizer?
No, not that I'm tired of being a national organizer. When you look at a situation and you see that there is a team which is not gelling, that no matter the opportunity you give to the team, the team will not yield any benefits. It's better that you come out and tell your good comrades the truth.
So an admission that,
this leadership...
The past executives of a CPP have failed.
In fact, we failed woefully. And it was because of only one person. And we needed to do that sacrifice for the party. Our chairperson, the leader, has failed us woefully. And the issue is that the CPP constitution gives so much power. Because in our system, it is the chairperson who is the leader of the party. No, even if we have a flag bearer, the chairperson is the leader. So she has a lot of powers. So we realized that she was rather doing things to aid her presidential ambition. No matter what we do for reorganization, she was not in agreement. She always had her power structures. And that was the only way for her to salvage the situation, that all national executives should be set aside. So we're all set aside, and there's an interim council. But because your brother is extremely dynamic, I'm a member of the interim council.
I know, right? I know, right?
Which will be, making sure the CPP gets its national executives by June, July this year. So we have just a 5 to 6 month mandate.
Let me greet my mother tonight. Nanaya Jantua, good evening. Good evening, mommy. I'll call you immediately after the show. Moses, I mean, has there been a time the CPP has had issues with the Electoral Commission? It looks as if some of the political parties over the years have complained that the Electoral Commission would want to impose its decisions on them. Did you also feel same? I'm talking about the Convention People's Party.
Of course, at a point in time. And luckily for me, I've been also representing the party at IPAC. Myself and my former General Secretary, Nanaya Jantua. So, of course, I agree perfectly and associate myself with the submissions of my brother. Yes, they will tell you IPAC is an advisory body. That it doesn't have any legal backing.
But
so whatever decision made there,
it doesn't have any legal backing.
And you're right. And you see, it's we are all, stakeholders. In fact, we political parties are major stakeholders when it comes to IPAC. They cannot operate without us. Neither can we also operate without them. So it can't go, can't come.
Okay.
And they understand that principle. for a very long time, since the institution of IPAC, there've been serious debate and things and suggestions have been taken on board. For all they know, sometimes they give us presentations and sometimes they miss very critical issues. It is we, rather the political parties, that elect them. So it is something that has come to stay, and we believe that as we even go forward in our democracy, there should be some kind of legal backing to it. But be it as it may, even though it is advisory, since we are major stakeholders in the political space, I believe that our views should always be taken into consideration. I'll give you classical examples. Just the ended limited registration.
Instances where the Electoral Commission took views of political parties into consideration.
You see, I agree. There are situations where they took our views. But there are some critical situations where they had their way. And I'll give a classical example with the limited registration. When they were doing it, we told them that, look, at least you give us all the electoral areas, at least one center per electoral area, which will add up to 6,400 centers. They refused and did only district offices. And you saw the kind of pressure on the district offices. And we're telling them, when you do that indirectly, you've passed the honors of the political parties to rather fair the people to the center. They say, oh, well, it is not so. They are looking at the numbers, they've done their projections. And we told them, look, the last limited registration you did before this one, you were able to do over 2/3 of the electoral areas. So why this time? Why are you cutting down the numbers?
But the Electoral Commission is telling you that.
Yes.
Now the registration process or the registration itself is done all year round. So even if you're unable to do it within the time it was being done, you could just walk to any of their district offices or any of the offices.
You can't do. No, it is not true. Who told you that?
So that is not working.
No. So what you are talking about is a continuous registration.
Okay, yeah, true.
Precisely. No, yes, as we stand now, we don't have that. So now, you have a district office. There are several places in Ghana. When you look at the landmarks of the area, and you look at where the center is, it will take you 2 hours or 3 hours drive to get to the center. And we're telling them, when you do this, you are disenfranchising a lot of Ghanaians. They say, oh no, they will get their way. And I remember telling them that when you do that, you've given opportunity to the two major political parties to be ahead of the game. And they ask me why. I say yes, because they will have the financial muscles to transport their supporters to the center. I will not be able to do that.
Right.
So you are disadvantaged. So I told them, if they will do that, then I challenge them. They should put buses at all the electoral areas and bus people to the center. If they do that, I don't have a problem. If the Electoral Commission can bus people from all the electoral areas, maybe for hour or so, they bring a van here in Abilinkpe, one in Jolu, and take everybody to where the district office is. We don't have a problem. And they said it outrightly that they can't do that. They won't do that. I said, okay, if you can decentralize and make sure that at least Abilinkpe has one center. They said no. We were surprised. So this was a classical example where even all the political parties present, it was unfortunate our brothers in the NDC was not there. Even the MPP, they were represented by Mark Menu and Obi Amwa. They supported our argument. Why we should have 6,400, at least every electoral area should have one. If they can't do that, they should give us 2/3 of the electoral area.
Right.
Which we are all in sync. To our ultimate surprise, when we go to the brim where the EC, we saw that they said they've heard, we'll hear from them. All what we heard that they had another press conference saying that they are still going on with their original plan. And with the police, we came together to sue them. If you could remember, this was a suit that when we were even trying to serve them, nobody was at the office to receive the rate.
That is true.
You see? And at the end, they were able to execute what they intended to do. And that, I feel, was a very big blow to democracy, where all political parties, the NDC was not at IPAC, but they joined us in the suit. The CPP was there, the LPG, the AP. Oh, in fact, we came together and we saw that, look, this thing will not augur well for the masses. So let's come together and stop the EC. We tried our best. But unfortunately, even the rate, to serve the rate, they were dodging the rate. So we were thinking that there would be a way to stop them, but we couldn't stop them. They told us that the Chief Justice was not in town, which was so... in fact, I've not heard that kind of thing before in this modern world, that the Chief Justice is not there to stamp on. I said, what are you talking about? No matter where, even if she's in space, she could have done, just make a phone call or even send an email. The case would have been allocated. So for us, it was a very, very big blow to democracy on that day. But all is not lost. Some of the personnel at the EC are very experienced people. Dr. Srebo, my old friend, Mr. Tete, For the two, they have been in the system for long. Sometimes, Madam J. Mensa and Boss, but I don't blame them. No, they are novice in the game. They don't really understand the electoral system. They are now picking up the pieces. So people like Mr. Tete.
But isn't it the more reason why, if you're looking for people to man the position of electoral commissioners, you need to look for people with experience.
Precisely. And I've been on that school of thought that the people who should man or should be the head of the EC should come from the system.
Right.
So that, because they have so many people who started working, Dr. Seripo has worked from region to region. He's well seasoned in the system. So you can shortlist about 3 of them who have been in the system. Then maybe the president can make one nomination.
Do you think?
But to bring an outsider who is a novice.
But do you think the decision to impose, or I mean, the reason to impose decisions on political parties,
yes,
is stemmed from the fact that you know, the electoral commissioners are appointed by a certain regime, and because of that, they would want to do the bidding for that particular, or they would want to serve their paymasters, persons who have appointed them into that position. Because, I mean, people have espoused that school of thought.
In fact, there is some truth in that. Okay. I will not run away from it.
All right.
Look, but you see, that is where I have a problem with some of the psychology of our people who are being appointed to these positions. The position, constitutionally, you are protected. So if you appointed me, I'll make sure I do the right thing. You cannot remove me. But the serious precedent that the NPP set was by witch hunting and making sure that the commissioners of the past regime were removed. It's a dangerous precedent. And I'm hoping that precedent doesn't continue after the NPP lose the election. Because you could see that this was a well-orchestrated plan to ensure that Senator Osei was removed.
If Jane Mensa is found guilty of some allegations...
That's what I'm saying, yes. Of course, if he's found guilty, and it is there, stated misbehavior.
Yes.
And stated misbehavior is broad. There are so many things you can bring against her. That's why I said they set a dangerous precedent.
That they have to act in that position rightly.
Of course.
So that their jobs...
So right now, they've opened the floodgates, they've opened the Pandora's box. It is for one thing a commissioner does. People are watching. You will not be surprised when the regime change.
Right.
People will bring it to say, Jane, you did A, B, and C. And so we are citing you for misbehavior and we are activating clauses for your removal.
Right.
So we cannot run away from that thing. That, yes, when the political parties are empowered, they appoint EC bosses. They become like a stooge to them. But it all depends on the personality of the person. There are people in this country, I believe, that a regime can appoint them, but they will do the right things. And that is what I want EC bosses to do. Because we are so much protected by the Constitution. And you shouldn't have any fear or favor.
We've had instances where some of, you know, the current commissioners have been accused of being members of the ruling, you know, party.
Yeah.
Bosman Asari has been accused. It has been alleged that he's a member of a new patriotic party.
Yes.
We have one, Apieje or something.
Yes.
Who
in fact, his word is even very, very deadly because...
we are told he used to communicate for the new patriotic party.
And I've listened to some of his tapes.
Yes.
And you can see outright
even Madame Jane Mensa has been accused. I learned people have accused her of being a member of the NPP and that she is related to the current First Lady and all of that, and that's what really you know, got her the appointment that was given to her as the Electoral Commission chair. Do you think that the current electoral commissioners are doing the bidding for their political party, or the political party they have been accused of being part of?
Well, for that, not entirely, but maybe there might be 1 or 2 elements who are trying to do that. For example, you gave example of one of the commissioners who was even like a communicator for the NPP. And we have videos to that effect. And when you listen to that doctor, you will realize that this is a staunch elephant. So it beats everybody's imagination. If the CSOs in Ghana came together, wrote to the president to revoke the appointment of such a fellow. But we are surprised that the first gentleman of the land has refused to look into that matter. And you see, these are things that you do that people lose trust in the system, in the Electoral Commission. So the NDC sometimes are right to say that you have appointed the APP people into the commission and you want us to work with them. And these are some of the reasons why they boycotted IPAC. But recently I heard Jane Mensa has extended an olive branch to them. I don't know how true it is, that they should come back to IPAC. I believe when they come back to the table, it helps all of us. As it stands, they're the biggest opposition party in the country. We go to IPAC, we do the debates. Sometimes without the NDC, it becomes tough, to be honest with you. So it is good they are back to the negotiation table. Let's talk. And when the EC gets it wrong, all of us will come out to tell them that we've got it wrong. And this time around, this election is a very delicate election. Justice, nobody is going to play around. And we are not going to allow them to dictate to the political parties. We will tell them, it's either you are working with us or we all then boycott IPAC. And that discussion is soon coming. I'm telling you, where all political parties, if to get somewhere, nobody will go to IPAC. Maybe it is only the new patriotic party that will be sitting at IPAC. Because if we go and whatever we suggest, you throw it into the bin, a time will come, we say, then there's no need. Okay. Then we all stay off IPAC.
Right.
And when that happens, it's a dangerous recipe for disaster.
Right, thank you so much. That was former national organizer of the Convention People's Party, CPP, Moses Ambem Yerimambo. Now, I would want us to, start a discussion on one of the very most important topics, and I'm talking about the Free Senior High School policy. Oh. You know that former President John Dramani Mahama has been talking about reviewing the Free Senior High School policy in his first 100 days if he's voted for in the 2024 elections. He has, gotten a response from the Education Minister who says the Free SHS does not need a review, but rather improvement. And I'll start with you, Elikem. I watched you discuss, this issue on a sister station this morning. How is the NDC taking this response from the Education Minister? He thinks that the policy is functioning properly, except that just like any other policy or any other thing, we are having some few challenges. And it is those challenges that we need to tackle and improve, and not to review the entire policy and all of that. Just like former President John Dramani Mahama is saying. What do you make of this? What is the NDC saying, about this response provided by the Education Minister on what John Mahama said?
Yeah, Justice. In the first place, I was very dumbfounded when I heard that our Education Minister could not comprehend the word review.
He could not comprehend the word review. Yes. This is strong.
And it is very
He's an educationist, for Christ's
sake. Well, and it is very disappointing to say the least. It informs my submissions consistently when I say President Akufo-Addo has appointed too many square pegs into round holes.
Too many square pegs into round holes.
When Matthew Opoku Prempeh was the Education Minister, many felt that he was a mess and was toying with the education sector. And so when he was moved out from there, Dr. Educhum was touted as the best to take over, and many touted his laurels also when he was in the USA and the things he did over there. But I get shocked, or I got shocked, when I heard that he emphatically stated and stood by his statement that the Free SHS did not require a review, but rather improvement. Then I asked myself, if it was only in the NPP that people holding PhD don't seem to make sense whenever they speak.
So in effect, you are saying that the Education Minister didn't make sense?
He didn't at all. I am not a policy expert, and I do not intend...
I know that one leads to the other.
Yes, and I do not intend to pretend to be one. But I have a little bit of appreciation of policy implementation and assessment or evaluation. In other words, the same review that we are talking about.
Right.
That when you roll out a policy, it is more or less like a living thing. And therefore, after a certain period, there is the need for you to do what is called an assessment of what the previous time has actually offered. And that assessment is by way what is referred to as a review. Some may even call it an evaluation.
Yes.
And I am also surprised that under a regime where President Akufo-Addo appointed even separate ministers for monitoring, for evaluation, for implementation, for what have you and what have you, an education minister has been caught flat-footed not to understand what it means to review. But you see, When you make yourself a political stooge, you are tempted to only think of everything with limited reasoning. To an extent, I believe that our education minister, because at a time the whole MPP machinery said, when President Mahama said if he comes, he will review free SHS. Review meant that he was going to cancel free SHS. So whenever they hear the word review, what comes to mind is that cancel. So at his age, with his wisdom and his intellect, probably at the mention of review, all that came to his mind was what? Cancellation. So he said, no, there's not going to be cancellation. There's never going to be cancellation. But President Mahama never said anywhere that he was going to cancel free SHS. He had said consistently that he will open up for wider stakeholders' engagement in order to review. Don't forget that it was one of the things that informed Professor Mills' decision to make sure that we revert to the 3-year tenure system instead of the 4-year that President Kufuor introduced. If you do not review, how will you then be able to know the problems that are associated, the challenges that are confronting the free SHS, let alone to want to improve? You can never improve if you do not review.
So improvement is to make better.
Yes. The bedrock of improvement is review. Because, in other words, the minister is saying that he will sit at his house, and when his auntie or his close pal's brother or sister or friend or NPP advocate calls him and say, free SHS no, board no munchom. That is the information he's just going to base on and decide that let's improve free SHS. They even have free SHS ambassadors. I think there's this Ibrahim Atta or something. The young guy who plays.
So. Yeah, Ibrahim Atta.
You need to engage all these people. Your ambassador should be able to give you some information for you to know that as free SHS ambassador, he has really done what he is expected of him. Unless we are supposed to believe that it was just for the cameras, and after that, nothing has actually happened, which I am tempted to believe is the case. And so if you have a square peg in the person of the education minister in a round hole who is not able to have an appreciation of what review means, and you say, Justice, it's only in the MPP that whenever they speak, we need other people to come and further translate the same English in English to us. So for a minister to sit, be asked if there's a need for review, and to consistently stand by the rot that no, there's no need for review, but there's a need for improvement. What are you going to improve if you don't review? Are you just going to, out of your mind, decide that, look, I think I heard Ken Ofoyata say that some rich people can afford free SHS. So let's change it. From the very beginning.
Talked about the fact
Ado Kufuor also said what he had to say. And Justice, what this regime is doing is not only destroying our secondary schools, it is destroying our basic schools, destroying our tertiary institutions as well. Are you aware that Mr. Chega, who happens to be the former director of GES, also said that it is very disturbing? Then also the executive director of African Education Watch, Kofi Asare, also gave a very problematic revelation. He said, our brothers and sisters who are in the junior high school final year may not see a single textbook before going to write their BECE. Now, when you hear things like this, you cringe. You rather only pray that let my child, let my ward, let my family not be close to this education system yet. Either they have gone past that or they should be in primary school by now so that they stay off this. Because if your brother is going to JHS 3 and throughout the whole 3 terms will go to school without a textbook, yet will be expected to sit for BECE exams. Then when he's done, they will say he has got 7 A's or 8 A's, what have you. Then go to secondary school, which is another disaster. And then you see when they go to the tertiary, then they cannot perform. So over 3,000 of them cannot even acquire a cumulative grade point of 1. Legon recently made us know that they have to sack a lot of students because government thinks that it has introduced a free SHS and that program must be seen and said to be well and alive, even if it is crumbling. So it will go and buy past questions, 35 million. Only God knows how much they paid this time around when we do not know. In order to aid the process for them to pass so well. But when we are doing this, are we destroying ourselves, or who do we think we are destroying. These students will finish the tertiary institutions. In the next 4 or 5 years, they apply to school, to university, to the workplaces to work. They may even get a job, but they may not perform.
Right.
They may go for interviews and they will not perform.
Right.
They may all be working, and then we'll be told that the quality of Ghana's workforce now is shamble. And this is the future we are building for Ghana. The most painful thing is that when all these things begins to take the rippling effects, our current president is in the extra time of his life. I mean, all things being equal, per the Bible's own reference, etc. And so, in the next 10, 20 years, he may not even be alive to witness it. But that will be the rot that will be visited on Ghanaians. By which time, probably Dr. Educhuma himself will be very old, either bedridden or in a wheelchair, and may not know the havoc he has caused to Ghana.
Right.
Then you and I will become the victims of these people who have become as part of a rotten system that has been visited on us by a regime. And that will be very sickening. And then, the particular party or government of the day may now be incurring the wrath of the people to be held responsible or to be blamed for problems that were actually caused years ago. And that is not the best way to govern a country.
All right, thank you so much. That was Elikem Kotoko. Our sole responsibility, or should I say that one of the main reason why we are here is to educate, inform, and entertain. And I'll use some few minutes to do this. Definition of review: a formal assessment of something with the intention of instituting change, if necessary. A formal assessment of something with the intention of instituting change, if necessary. So that's the definition of review. Or a critical appraisal of a book, play, film, etc., etc., published in a newspaper or magazine. So it goes on and on and on. But it all has to do with appraisal, assessment, evaluation, and all of that. Now let's look for the meaning or definition of improve. Improve is to make better, is to make or become better. But then the question is, if you don't assess, if you don't evaluate, how do you make something better? So if you don't review, how do you improve, a certain situation? So I would want the Minister of Education to come clear, at least, to explain to the good people of Ghana what he meant by free senior high school needs not to be reviewed, but rather, to be improved. Then we will all really get it clear. But I'll come to you, Irimambo, on the minister's statement.
Just the kind of presentation I wanted to make in regards to the difference between a review and improvement. Yes, and in fact, you've done justice to it.
Right.
Exactly. So
I've
that
done
was
my
what,
name
yes, and that was what exactly where the point is. If you don't review, how do you then improve? Surely you have to review.
That's a big
and every serious institution does yearly reviews or even quarterly reviews. So what are they talking about? Review is extremely necessary if this program is to succeed. When they came to power and they introduced this thing, as a socialist, I was happy because that is what we stand for. That the good people of this country will enjoy the benefits of the national cake through education. The only thing we had issues with from the initial beginning, we told them that we just came to power. Look at the situation very well. Give yourself 1 year or two to analyze the situation so that the policy will be tight. So as time goes on, we will be reviewed. They even said it. Because when they came to power, we thought that it was too early for them to start the process.
Right.
That they should take time, sit down with the stakeholders so that they tighten the policy so that to be so. They said, no, when you are starting a policy, you can start, but as time goes on, you review to make it better. I remember that language so well in their first 10. Now, fast forward, we've all seen the loopholes with free SHS. We are not saying it's not a good policy. It's an extremely good policy. And we hope that any government that comes to power in future we'll keep that policy. But we need to make it extremely tight. Now, as my brother was saying, it is true. You bypass questions for students. Everybody knows that for a fact. It's like we are training the students to know how to pass the exams. So that when the stars comes out, we will say that, oh yes, free SHS students are doing better. But that is not what is real on the ground. When I was in the tertiary, our teachers used to tell us that our predecessors were better than us. That those days, those who came to the university were sharper. Now go and ask them the same question. You will see the kind of things they will tell you. They will tell you that this crop of generation is the worst kind of student they've ever had. And it is true. When you meet university students, you talk to them, quiz them, ask them to even give you a common CV. They'll struggle with it.
Right.
So it's like, look, we are having a serious challenge with the quality of education. Hey, we can't mince words with that. The quality of education in Ghana is in serious jeopardy.
The truth is that today people pass through the universities, they come out and they are unable to write common letters.
They can't write it. They can't write, and they cannot even express themselves.
And a lot of tertiary institutions outside now are beginning to now require entrance exams.
Of course, because they've seen that our system is too loose.
Right.
You see, let's call it spade a spade. Nobody can run away from this. The review is so necessary. Let's sit down with all stakeholders. What is it that we are not doing right? With all the kind of investment we are pushing into free SHS, what is it that we are not doing right? And there are so many things we are not doing right.
But I mean, if somebody comes and says that I would review free senior high school policy,
we
should also interrogate the person.
Of course.
To know what exactly.
Of course. That's what I'm saying. The parameters are so wide. Is it the teaching skills? Is it the curricula? There are so many things we can look at.
Yeah, but you see, that is why it is best to review the whole program.
Right.
Precisely.
Because the program was installed holistically.
Right.
And so if you need to look at performance, you would have to look at every facet of it.
That's it.
How has been teacher to student ratio? How has been teacher student relationship? How has been teacher condition after school?
Right.
Because maybe the numbers have gone up, and so the teachers get worn out easily, or get worn out so much that the next day they may not be fully energized for the next lectures. So we need the food quality for boarders, because that is why, for instance, should boarders also be should boarding facility also be free? Maybe days should be free. So those who want to be boarders, it is also free, but maybe the feeding should be paid for.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying.
One of the elements
that
makes free education very expensive is feeding.
Yes, it's feeding.
What people don't
and
know.
now it has really compromised the quality of food. I have met parents. I met a parent, unfortunately I cannot disclose her identity, in the Volta region in Ho recently, whose ward, her only child at a school in the Volta region nearly died out of food poisoning.
Yeah.
The quality of food,
the quality of food is something else. And so if you are a parent and you even have your child in school, you need to now again find an avenue to send them money to make sure that they can live good and live healthy. If not, what they are being fed with, I don't want to say it is poisonous, but what they are being fed with is not nutritious and it's not balanced diet.
Precisely. Right. And the issue is that the numbers too has tripled.
Yes.
During our time, every year, my alma mater, Opokuwari School, we used to pick between 500 to 530. Now within a year, they pick 1,005. Can you imagine?
Those days, it used to be.
Agri
Memorial, that was the most popular.
Yes.
And it was about 800 or so.
You can't pick more than 550.
Right.
But look at how they've tripled and quadrupled the population of the school. Even with the dining hall, they go in badges. So you can imagine the pressure. Even though the school have expanded, the old boys are giving their expanded the school with facility, but still you could see that there is a lot of pressure on the facility because the numbers they're giving out to the school is too much. And the teachers who have not increased to that level, as he's saying, the ratio. So you could see that there's so much burden on the teachers. Now, for us, we believe that look, the review is a necessity, whether they like it or not. It will be reviewed. When they're out of power, the CBB government will do serious review. In other, how do you call it, jurisdictions, as you were saying, boarding facility is always paid for. Where we have free SHS all over the world, it is only day facilities, where there are community schools. So I think that was the wisdom in what they started with the community day schools. Yeah, so you realize that in all those places, it is community day schools, which are free. Because that one, it means that you live in Abilikwe and there's a school in Jolu.
Very close
to you. You go and you come back. But with a boarding facility, because the feeding the dormitory maintenance of the dormitory is very expensive.
Now they are not able to maintain the dormitories.
It's very serious.
And if we are not careful, Justice, soon come, as the Rastaman will say, soon come.
Right.
We may even be hearing some bad news about an infrastructure collapse or this or that, because there's excess pressure on all these facilities.
That is it.
And these are facilities that have been built since 1957, 1960, 1972, 1980, 1940, what have you. Government is not doing anything. They are only interested in what they can milk. For instance, if you go to my school, St. Mary's Secondary School in Apawai, the person who even supplies them maybe food items is not from the Western region. They may bring Tom Brown from Kumasi, Ashanti region. Why is it so? Because they said the minister says there's a directive that it should come from here. No. What is this?
So it's a whole comprehensive thing we have to look at. For us, the policy itself as in free SHS, we support it as a socialist political party. We are even looking at a situation where we can even add tertiary when we are in power. But it should be a well-linked up program so that even from the SS level, your cumulative records, you have to get better before you enter the university. And when you get better, you enter the university, the state should be able to take care of you. So it should be a linked system. Well, from the secondary school, you are entering into the university. But you need to achieve some quality before you enter. And if you enter, the state will take care of you. That is our policy. But we cannot just say that because you went to write SSC, you had 14 or 10, you are qualified. No, it will be a cumulative record.
So there's no challenge. The truth is that now,
there's no challenge.
Even if the child gets aggregate 30, she's able to get a school. The person is pleased.
Yes.
So, I mean,
it's very interesting. Yeah, so they will tell you that I think the cutoff point is 40 or 39. That everybody is pleased. But to be honest with you, what is the quality of that student going into the SS? So you see the whole system from primary JSS, it should be linked together. Such a student, you should give her the opportunity or him the opportunity to get better before you can take her to the secondary school. Unless we have a pre-secondary school structure where that person goes for another 1 year, prepare them better before they enter into the mainstream. You can do that. Other jurisdictions, they do that. So the whole program, as I said, needs serious review. And they cannot run away from it.
Do you think
Justice, let me put on record here, especially for the sake of our viewers, and most importantly, those of you watching us who are either parents of these children or you are the children yourselves who are in these schools. We care about you just as your parents care about you. We are not against you, but we rather feel that your education should be qualitative rather than quantitative. We sitting here have also been through the same system. And what we went through is not what you are going through today. It may look softer if you are allow or condone that now, but it hardens your future. It destroys your future. Where your education quality is dropped, where you have not even made your grades and they say come in, and then you are excited that I haven't made it but I'm able to pass through because that's a leeway to get to secondary school. You get to the tertiary, there's another leeway, you finish, you may not get the job that you deserve. So you will now be complaining that I have even finished tertiary and there are no jobs. You add up to the statistics of unemployed people, not because they are not the jobs, but you do not even qualify or you do not even fit into the job requirement.
Of course.
But do you think that political expediency is what led to the haphazard implementation of a policy?
Of course,
because we have acknowledged that the policy is a good
it's a good policy. And in fact, it was rushed. And we told them from the initial, of course, because it was a political promise and they needed to execute. And we told them, you have a 4-year mandate. Even if you introduce it on your 3rd year and you take your first 2 years to look at the policy well and tighten all the loopholes, sit down with stakeholders and let's analyze the whole situation. Talking better. They say no. That we need to start, that as time goes on, they'll do the review and they'll make it better.
Now do review.
Now do review, you say no. You see the problem. So I have a serious...
And you see, Justice.
You see, we have to get this.
You see, let's also state on record that when His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC were talking about free, compulsory, universal basic education, which was way back even under President Rollins. Then His Excellency John Mahama was talking about the continuous free education, which was why he started building the community day SHS, so that in each community you have a school closer to you. Then you can begin the free SHS from that level. Where those who want to go to category A schools, etc., you may have to actually pay a certain fee.
Yeah.
If we had started so and they had seen wisdom in it, they would have seen the need to complete all the community day SHS and implemented this slowly. But this is not the case.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in again. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
But I would engage two of our viewers. I have a lot of messages here about I'll read just two because my time is up. This one says, good evening, Justice. The education minister appears to be the most confused minister in the history of Ghana. He needs free education to comprehend the meaning of review. Bawa Peter Baole in Tumu sent in that one. This one says, good evening, my brother. Our educational system is appalling. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, it pains me so much for my fellow Ghanaians because anybody that I see supporting NDC and MPP is only swimming in fool's paradise. Right. Well, this is all time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us, same time tomorrow. My name is Justice Apia and the show has been Hot News. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Goodbye.